And we're in the company of Madeleine Schwartz, journalist who's been writing for the London Review of Books, the New York Review of Books, covering the trial almost on a daily basis?
I've been coming since the beginning, yeah.
Since the beginning. Also with us, Guillaume Denoix de Saint-Marc, pleasure to see you, founder of the Association of the French Victims of Terrorism.
Yes.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And you've been with us throughout these 7 years, we could say, to a certain degree.
Yes, from the very beginning, yes.
Thanks to both of you. Madeleine, you were just inside the courthouse. Tell us.
Well, the mood is one of anticipation. I have never seen the courthouse more full. There are people who have come from all over France, I would say all over the world even, to hear the verdict and to hear what the court will say about these accused.
There was a feeling of... It was a mixed feeling when we were speaking to people online earlier, going in about the fact that this is it. This is the final day.
Well, I think that for a lot of victims, and of course I don't want to speak for them, but in their testimony, many of them have talked about the feeling of closure with this trial, that this is the end of years of thinking about this attack and what it means, and that after this trial, it's unclear what comes next.
Unclear what comes next. We'll get to that in a moment. But first, Guillaume Denoix de Saint-Marc, when you think back, 7 years, and we get to this day. Is this what you expected?
Yes, because it was a fantastic trial. Fantastic because it was difficult to organize, and it has been organized properly. Difficult because there were persons in the accused person. Some of the key persons were there. Salah Abdeslam, for example, but also other persons, and it's very important to know what everyone did and how involved everyone was or not involved. So there are different cases, so it's very rich. We could hear to all the civil parts, all the victims could speak, and what they said was really strong. And they passed away. They were not in a victimized position as they were at the very beginning 7 years ago. They were much more intellectual, even if there was a lot of feelings. But there was no anger, no vengeance. It was, very instructive to hear them 7 years after what happened.
We're used to dealing with breaking news where it's the day of and tempers are flaring. And what Guillaume Denoix de Saint-Marc says is what everyone has been saying, that nobody who has followed this trial closely, we spoke to one woman who was there for 125 of the 150 days. She says, of course my views have changed.
Well, I think that one of the particularities of this trial has been that it has been so long, and which means that there has been a lot of change, I think, both for the civil parties and for the accused. We have seen over the course of this trial a tremendous amount of change from Salah Abdeslam, who is, of course, the main accused, who started out claiming his allegiance to ISIS and ended the trial crying and asking for forgiveness.
And you point out in your writing that at no point does he express remorse. He asks forgiveness, but he doesn't express remorse.
Well, I think, I don't know that any of us could really understand what's going on in his head. And to be honest, watching him, he has often oscillated. And even the two psychologists who came to talk about their analysis of him discussed that he oscillates between two positions, that of the hardened ISIS soldier and that of the little guy, this is their words, the little guy from Molenbeek. And we've really seen that throughout the trial as he's gone back and forth.
Is it black and white in this case, Guillaume Denoix de Saint-Marc?
No, everything is gray, and what is good is we had time to see the gray zone of everything. And I also think about the three perpetrators or accused that were not in jail. Maybe they're going to be sentenced for jail, but anyway, it's also important that to see that also their voice was listened and their case was analyzed very precisely. And it was very important for the victims to know everything about everything and all the details. And there were a lot of, I would say, humanity in all that. Humanity of the victims, but humanity also of the accused persons. Sometimes tricky humanity, like for Salah Abdeslam, you don't really know what he really thinks, but at least he could speak up, he could give his voice.
Because he could have not spoken.
He could have not spoken. I know that it's our lawyer who made him speak, because we created empathy with him, and it was a way to bring him back to humanity. It's a starting point. I think it's not finished, but at least there is a beginning of a process. And that's what is very important. We bring back the histories of each individual and not the history of a group, which is completely different.
Do you feel, and it'll be my final question for you, do you feel as though this is being viewed as the trial of all those that are in the box, or is it Salah Abdeslam who's the sole focus?
No, it's a trial of all of them, and all of them individually. And I'm sure that the sentences will be very different for each one. And I hope, our hope is that there is a very big difference between the different sentences, which will show that the trial really looked at each case separately.
Is it doable? I was just giving the guy a lift to the airport. I didn't know. What do you say when that?
No, but anyway, there are proofs, there are evidence, and everybody should be condemned through what he effectively did or we think he did, but not of everything, not of murder. This person were not murderers. They took part. They took a part. They have to be acquainted for what they did, but only on what they did.
All right, Guillaume Denoix de Saint-Marc, thank you for being with us. Just a few more questions with you. Madeleine Schwartz, the interesting thing here is this isn't like a... as Guillaume Denoix de Saint-Marc was saying, they're not all facing the same charges. This isn't like one of those big... It's not a Nuremberg trial. It's not a crimes against humanity trial. This is different people with varying degrees of culpability or not.
Exactly, and I think that's one of the reasons that the trial has been so interesting. You have someone on one extreme, like Abdeslam, who is the only surviving member of the commando that actually attacked Paris, and then on the other hand, you have these three accused who have come to the court freely every morning because they're not currently incarcerated, and who have even gone out, during the breaks and smoked cigarettes with the victims. And so it's a wide variety of accused who will no doubt get a wide variety of sentencing from tonight.
Wide variety of sentencing. Guillaume Denoix de Saint-Marc, I'm told you're expected on our French set, so I want to thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
All right. The question I had for you on this score is the expectations that this is a trial for history, right? Now, I'm old enough to remember the Klaus Barbie trial, but that was the trial of an old man. Here, the main suspect is 32 years old. Is it a trial for history?
Well, that is certainly the way it has been set up, and it would be hard to not think about that just by virtue of the size of the trial. So here we're standing in front of the courthouse, where a specially built courtroom was built just to accommodate the many, many people who were planning to come and to accommodate these many victims. One tension that there has been in the courtroom is whether we should be looking at it historically or whether we should be looking at it, as many of the lawyers have said, like any other trial, looking at the facts, not thinking, what will people think about this in 50 years, but thinking, okay, can we prove that the accused did these things or not, and where do we go from there?
We're in a criminal trial, the way you describe it. That's a far cry from what the French president said on the night of November 13th when he said France is at war.
Well, the French presidents came to the trial to express many of those,
the former president.
Many of those same sentiments, and his appearance at the trial was very hotly debated, and many people in the courtroom did not want to hear from him, most notably the lawyers for the defense. One thing I think that makes a terrorism trial of this sort so complicated is that you have such violence. And then at the end of the day, what the judge will have to do, what he is no doubt doing right now, the judges are looking at what did each particular accused do in the most specific way. And so at the one hand, they have had to look at things globally and with the most amount of detail possible.
And we're still trying to make sense of this rampage. Madeleine Schwartz, I want to thank you so much. I know you have to get back inside for the verdict.
Thank you so much.
And we hope you'll come back out and join us once it's over.